Hello everybody, this is Kozastakas and this is your 21st tutorial in Photoshop. In this tutorial I'm going to introduce layers. So as you can see over here at the side I have opened up the layers tab, and to do that just go in window and select layers. It's as simple as that, as always. And how I'm going to do it is I'm first going to demonstrate why layers are so useful. And I'm going to get my brush tool and select a red color. And I'm just going to type in red beach. That's just the name of the beach depicted in the picture. Now, what I have over here is actually a big problem. What if I wanted to move those letters around, fill them, or do a whole set of other things? Well, I couldn't, just because I've actually destroyed the pixels of the image in the positions that I've drawn. I couldn't actually move that. So, in order to get over this problem, you can actually use layers. And let's just go back in history. And the first thing I'm going to show you is how to create a layer. And to do that, just click on this little icon down here next to the trash icon, and a new layer pops up in the layers tab. Now if I were to just go ahead and do the very same thing and just type in red beach, now what I can do is actually individually edit this layer. And first I'm going to get this very first tool up on the top, and that's the move tool, and I can use that to actually move the layer around. And let me just move it in this position. And as you can see, the back layer, the background layer, which I've selected right now, is not affected by the changes that I make in this layer, in the first layer. And that's just a non-destructive way of editing images. And that's why layers are so important concept in Photoshop. And I got a lot of people saying, you know, I kind of don't get layers. But layers are an important concept that you have to understand. And if you were to just watch one video out of this whole series, I would suggest this video. So in order to better demonstrate that, I have a couple of pictures over here. And this first picture that I'm showing you pretty much says a lot about layers. You can just find this on the internet as well. So pause if you want to in order to kind of see this image. And the second image is a little bit more analytic, and it depicts layers as basically, imagine those as being transparencies of an overhead projector. And that's just one way of imagining layers. You can actually imagine them also as layers stacked on top of each other. That's why they're called layers. But I like to imagine them as transparencies, and that's just a neat way to do it. Now, as you can see, the ones that are on top appear on top, and it's actually quite a good depiction. So if you want to, you can pose over here as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to demonstrate what I just said, you know, that the top layers over here appear on the top, and that's the hierarchy of layers. So if I were to just go ahead and create a new layer and drag it to the second position, just click and drag it, and I were to just kind of start drawing with a black brush right now, as you can see, everything I draw actually appears at the back. It doesn't appear on top, and you could use this to actually enhance your letters, but why that happens is basically because in the hierarchy, the position of this layer over here on the layers tab is the second position. And that's why it appears at the back of this layer and it does not appear on top of it. Now, one thing you can do with layers is you can actually turn on and off their visibility by clicking on this little icon with the eye over here. And if I were to just turn off the visibility of the first layer, you could just see the second layer in the background, and you can see that's basically what we drew. But if I make this layer, the first layer, visible again, you can see that's what appears. If I make both layers invisible, the first layer in the background, and just leave the second layer, you can see how just how this layer looks. And everything is transparent, and that's what those white and gray squares mean, that basically mean transparency, and we've seen that in a previous tutorial. And that's just what this layer would look like if you just had it on an image. Let's just put everything back on. So you get the idea of kind of how hierarchy works with layers. And the next thing I'm going to show you is how to actually copy an image onto another image as a new layer. And I have a new document over here. And I can just go ahead and select everything by using Control A or select all, and then just go and edit, copy, or Control set in order to copy that image, and then just go back to the other image and edit, paste, or Control V. I'll just drag this using this first tool up here, and you can use this tool, as I said, to just drag layers around. And as you can see, the second layer right here that's selected. I can just move it up here at the top if I want to. And if I move this around, you can see that it appears in between those two layers just because it's in the second position. If I were to put it in the third position, it would appear at the bottom. And if I were to put it in the first position over here, you just see it turns to the top. So that's kind of like a neat way to demonstrate layers. Another way to do this very same thing, if I go ahead and delete this layer by clicking on the trash icon, is by actually dragging this document out and making it a floating window. Now let's just deselect that. And I'm just gonna drag this layer on top of that image where I want to put it. And if you just drag it on top of the image, it's just gonna stick there. And let's just put everything back in place. And if I were to just go back in the image, you can see I got the very same effect by copying that layer that I'm getting right now. So that's just another neat way of doing the things to copy a layer. Now no, that's not the last thing. The next thing I want to show you is this T tool, the text tool. And what it does is you can actually type text. Let's just create an area, and let's just type, "What a great beach." So what happens with this tool is basically it creates a new layer every time you use it. And as you can see, this layer looks a little bit different. It's called a type layer. And if I just let my mouse over it, it says indicates text layer. So it's actually a text layer. So get the idea of having different types of layers. And the background is always a different type of a layer. And if I just right click on it, you can see a menu pops up, and that happens with every layer. But different layers, actually different types of layers, give you different options. So it's a neat menu. We'll go over it in the next tutorials. And what happens is this actually is a type menu, and let's just talk a little bit about this background layer. So the background layer has a special ability. First of all, it's always on the background. You get a few different options, and the special ability is that you cannot move it in a different position just because it has to always be in the background. And it looks like this. It has always this background written on it with italics, and it has this little lock over here. And in order to turn this to a normal layer, you just have to go in Layer, New, oops, I'm sorry for that. Layer, New, Layer from Background, or right click and select Layer from Background, or you can just double click on the layer. And those are just three ways to do it. And let's just name this layer Photo. You can give the layers your own name. And let's just click OK. And as you can see, it just turned into a normal layer. And if I just drag it to the top, everything disappears. And that is because this first layer, the image layer, actually covers everything. So I hope you got the idea of how layers work and enjoyed this tutorial. And don't forget to subscribe. So see you guys next time.